one of the things we've got to solder in is our little battery holder. This is quite simple and straightforward, and we can just do this conventionally. Just stick a finger on it to stop it moving while the solder solidifies. And of course, we observed the legend on the silk screen as well. I think one of the next things we're going to put in is our little crystal. It's got some quite fine leads, and we've managed to solder up one of the holes, which wasn't very clever. I'll try it again with a soldering iron that's turned on. So we accidentally have soldered up one of the holes that this crystal goes in. Well, that's okay. We were able to just poke it in there and solder it up. Now we see we have a solder pad for it, and the instructions do say to solder this on, but we only need a little blob of solder. We don't need to flood it with solder here. Probably drop a flux onto there, and don't use your fingers for doing this, it will not work out well. Just solder it down. Now it's important when you're soldering that down is to don't have both of these leads soldered in when you do that, because you could put a lot of extra stress on them. It's okay with just one. It's manageable. Now we got both of those in. We can trim off those. So as you can see, we're gradually working up in height. I think the next one for us is going to be our little, we've got our buzzer, but I think the next highest one is our USB connector. Now interestingly, it's saying before soldering the socket, they only need the left and the right pin of these 5 that are in here, and they say you can just cut the rest off if your eyes are good enough for that. I don't know if mine are, and trying to get in there with these snips, not really going to be that easy, so I'm thinking I'm just going to put it in. I shall just solder in the outer sort of casing pins of this. Do these ones first, and then there's no strain on the pins of the connector. All the mechanical strain is taken by these 4 pads. So this one's going to be a little delicate. I'll see if I can zoom you in so you can see me if I completely mess up. Sorry, the light isn't so great for this in here. That proved to be simpler than I thought it was going to be. So we'll move on to our electrolytic capacitor. Just like a conventional component, this has a polarity. As you can see on the PCB, we've got a black marking, and then on the top of this component you can see the black stripe as well. These are notoriously easy to knock off when soldered. They're a little bit unwieldy because of the physical size of them. And I don't know if you can see, let me zoom in on this. You can see that the pin for this side is tiny. Absolutely tiny. That seems to be that. We have a buzzer, and I might be a bit controversial here, but I'm not going to fit this, and I'll tell you why. Often these kits, every button press that you will make for this, for setting the clock, it beeps at you. And unless you're wanting a beep, or if you're wanting an alarm, just don't bother fitting it. But if you are going to fit it, it has a polarity. You can see the positive there, and you can see a square pad there. Now, the positive corresponds to that square pad. It also has a positive on the underneath, as you can see, just there, positive and a negative. But the positive corresponds to the square pad, so it would go in this way around if we were going to fit it. But I'm not going to fit it because that has great irritation. Now we have a microphone as well. A new page of instructions. So our microphone. So here we have, again, this has a polarity as well. And it's helping us to see this area, as we see here. And this area goes to the round pad. Let's get this. So we have our mic, we have our round pad, and those go to that. Solder one pin and then just see if you need to make any adjustments, and then solder the other one. Now we have our little thermistor as well, which is this TR. So that goes in there. And according to the instructions, as you can see up here, it's got it spaced off the board a little bit. So we'll leave it spaced off a little bit as well. We shall just solder up one pin and see how that looks. Straighten that a bit. Make sure we don't bend it over. We'll just... That's nice. And again, we trim off these nice and flush. Being careful not to accidentally cut into any of the LEDs. And also being careful not to create an inadvertent short or bridge. I think I'm all right there. I think the only thing left to do is this LED. So we have instructions: soldering the 5mm straight LED. This, the longest feet corresponding to the pad above the black dot. So here we go, and helpfully it's also got a little square pad as well, and that's for the longest lead. Goes into that. And it says after soldering the LED, make it sleep. I think that means make it lie flat on the circuit board, as shown in this picture here. I don't want to push it too close to the circuit board because it does have to get folded over. So what we'll do is, as usual, solder just one of the leads and see if we need to make any adjustments. It's always easier to adjust it if there's only one LED that's soldered. And that is everything soldered onto this side of the circuit board. So essentially, this circuit board is complete. Next, we'll move on to the casing for this kit.